Hey there, friends. Tonight, we're heading somewhere green. So green it'll stain your dreams. You're standing on Irish soil now, and I need to tell you something. You probably won't survive this. Not because of the landscape, though those cliffs could swallow you whole, but because history here has teeth. Sharp ones. Ireland remembers everything. Every footstep, every whispered prayer, every blade drawn in anger. The land itself keeps score. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment below telling me where you're listening from and what time it is there. Are you in Tokyo watching the sunrise? Los Angeles winding down? Somewhere in between, stealing a quiet moment? I love knowing we're all scattered across this spinning rock, sharing stories in the dark. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing barefoot on Irish soil, and the grass is cold, colder than you expected. It's the kind of cold that seeps upward through your soles, traveling bone deep until you realize this isn't just earth beneath you, it's memory. Every blade of grass here grows from the bones of the past, and if you stand still enough, you can feel the island breathing. Look around. The landscape rolls in shades of emerald and jade, stitched together with stone walls older than empires. Mist clings to the hills like a living thing, and somewhere in the distance, you hear water. A river, maybe, or the Atlantic gnawing at the western edge of the world. This is Ireland before it had that name, before borders, before the weight of conquest. This is the land of the Tuatha, the tribes, and you've arrived at the very beginning. The Celts didn't invent Ireland, they walked into it, sometime around 500 BCE, carrying bronze and iron, and stories that would outlive stone. But here's the thing, they weren't the first. Long before Celtic warriors carved their names into this soil, there were others. The ancient Irish spoke of the Tuatha De Danann, the people of the goddess Danu, who ruled with magic before fading into the hills, becoming the Aossi, the fairy folk. Historians still argue whether these were memories of an older people, Bronze Age settlers whose legends grew larger with each retelling, or pure mythology spun from firelight and imagination. Either way, the Celts inherited a haunted landscape. You watch a chieftain now, standing atop a hill fort, one of those massive earthwork rings that still scar the countryside. His name doesn't matter. History forgot most of them. What matters is the gold torque around his neck, the iron sword at his hip, and the 100 warriors gathered below him. This is a Tuatha, a small kingdom, one of perhaps 150 scattered across the island. Ireland isn't united, it's a patchwork quilt of tribes, each one ruling its slice of green, each one ready to defend it or die trying. The land remembers us, the chieftain calls out, and his voice carries on the wind. Let our enemies remember us too. The warriors roar. You feel the sound in your chest. But here's something most people don't know. Celtic Ireland wasn't just about warfare. Sure, cattle raids and border skirmishes kept things lively. Stealing your neighbour's cows was basically a national sport. But the Celts also brought sophistication. They brought the druids. You see one now, standing apart from the warriors, wrapped in robes that drink in the twilight. The druids were the intellectual elite. Priests, judges, historians, astronomers, physicians. They memorized thousands of verses, kept the oral traditions alive, and wielded influence that made kings nervous. A druid could curse you, bless you, or simply remember you, and in a culture without writing, memory was everything. They held the stories, they held the lore, they held the soul of the people. 3 things a druid must know, the old man murmurs, and you lean closer to hear. The path of the stars, the hearts of men, and the language of the other world. The other world. The Celts believed the veil between worlds was thin here, especially on certain nights. Samhain, Beltane, when the dead could walk and the gods might speak. Sacred sites dotted the landscape, the Hill of Tara, where high kings would one day be crowned. Newgrange, that ancient passage tomb older than the pyramids, where sunlight pierces the darkness only on the winter solstice. The land wasn't just geography, it was theology. Centuries pass in a breath. You blink, and suddenly there's a man walking toward you across the hills. He's older now, weathered, carrying a staff and a message that will crack Ireland open and remake it. His name is Patrick. The year is sometime in the 5th century. Dates get fuzzy this far back. And Patrick isn't Irish. He's a Romano-Briton who was kidnapped by Irish raiders as a teenager, enslaved, and eventually escaped. Most people would have called it even, and never looked back. Patrick came back. He came back to bring Christianity to the pagans, and against all odds, it worked. "I have placed my hope in you, eternal God," he writes later, and you can almost hear the exhaustion in those words. Christianity didn't conquer Ireland with swords. It seeped in, slowly, wrapping itself around the old ways until druids became monks and sacred groves became monasteries. By the 6th and 7th centuries, Ireland had transformed into the island of saints and scholars. Monks in stone beehive huts perched on cliffsides, copying manuscripts by candlelight. The Book of Kells, with its spiraling illuminations so intricate they look like prayers made visible. These weren't just books. They were acts of devotion, each letter a meditation, each page a small miracle. Irish monasteries became beacons of learning, while much of Europe stumbled through the so-called Dark Ages. Scholars travelled from across Christendom to study here. The Irish monks in turn travelled outward, founding monasteries in Scotland, England, France, even Italy. They carried their books, their faith, and their peculiar blend of Celtic Christianity, one that never quite forgot the old stories, that saw God in the rivers and Christ in the standing stones. You could almost believe the peace would last forever. Then you hear it, the creak of wood, the slap of oars against water. You turn toward the coast, and there they are, longships, lean and hungry, cutting through the morning mist. The Vikings have arrived. The year is 795. The place is Rathlin Island. The Norse raiders hit the monastery like a storm, and suddenly, the island of saints and scholars is learning a new lesson. Holiness doesn't stop an axe. Over the next century, the raids intensify. Monasteries burn. Monks flee inland, carrying their precious manuscripts. The Vikings aren't interested in prayers. They want silver, gold, anything that shines. But here's the twist. The Vikings didn't just raid and leave. They stayed. They built towns. Dublin, Waterford, Cork, Limerick, Wexford. Ireland's first real cities were Norse creations, trading ports that connected the island to a wider world. And slowly, over generations, the Vikings and the Irish tangled together, intermarrying, trading, fighting, until the line between raider and native blurred. By the time the famous Brian Boru becomes High King in 1002, defeating the Norse at the Battle of Clontarf in 1014, the Vikings are as Irish as anyone. Boru himself had Norse allies. The battle wasn't Celts versus Vikings. It was one Irish coalition against another. The island had absorbed its invaders, made them part of the story. You might think Ireland had learned to handle outsiders. You'd be wrong. The year is 1169. A deposed Irish king named Dermot MacMurrough has a problem. He lost his kingdom of Leinster in a local power struggle, and he wants it back. So he does something desperate, something that will haunt Ireland for 8 centuries. He crosses the Irish Sea and asks the Normans for help. Enter Richard de Clare, better known as Strongbow, a Norman Welsh lord with expensive armour and expensive ambitions. MacMurrough offers him a deal. Help me reclaim my throne, and you can marry my daughter and inherit Leinster. Strongbow agrees. In 1169, Norman knights and Welsh archers land on Irish soil. They don't leave. The Normans fight differently than the Irish. They bring heavy cavalry, stone castles, feudal organisation. They carve through Irish resistance like hot iron through butter. Strongbow takes Leinster. MacMurrough gets his throne back, but he's traded independence for something far more dangerous. He's opened the door. Behind Strongbow comes King Henry II of England, worried that his Norman lords might carve out their own Irish kingdoms. In 1171, Henry lands with a massive force and declares himself Lord of Ireland. The Irish kings, fragmented and feuding as always, can't unite against him. Some submit, some resist. It doesn't matter. The pattern is set. The English are here now. They'll build their castles, Dublin Castle, the Pale, and they'll claim authority over an island that will never quite submit. The Normans will intermarry with the Irish, becoming more Irish than the Irish themselves, as the saying goes. But the English crown's claim will persist, evolving, hardening, until Ireland becomes a wound that refuses to heal. You stand on that same green hill where you started, but everything has changed. The druids are gone, the monasteries are quieter, the language is shifting, and in the distance, you can see the stone walls of a Norman castle rising against the sky, grey and permanent and wrong. The land still remembers. The rivers still carry their stories. But now they carry new ones too. Stories of dispossession, resistance, survival. The green thread that connects past to present has tangled into something darker, knotted with conquest and longing. Ireland will spend the next 700 years trying to untangle it. And that's where we'll rest tonight, right at the edge of English rule, with the future stretching out uncertain and restless before us. You can step back now. Let the mist rise around you. Let the sounds of battle fade into the whisper of wind through grass. The stones are still here, ancient and patient. The rivers keep flowing, carrying their secrets to the sea. And somewhere, beneath all the layers of invasion and faith and heartbreak, that original pulse remains. The one you felt when you first stood barefoot on this soil. The one that says this land is alive, and it remembers everything. You're safe now, far from the clash of swords and the crackle of burning monasteries. You're just a traveller passing through, a listener in the dark. And Ireland's story will wait for you whenever you're ready to return. The Druids knew this truth. Some stories are too big to finish in one sitting. Some stories live in the land itself, patient as stone, deep as roots. So let your breathing slow. Let your shoulders drop. Feel the weight of centuries lift from you like morning fog. And know that history, for all its teeth and sorrow, is also just this. Voices in the darkness, trying to remember, trying to be remembered. And tonight, you've listened. That's enough. That's everything. Rest now. The green thread holds. Ireland will still be here when you wake.